Hello, hello. Wednesday, February 13th. Happy early Valentine's Day, that is, and welcome back to the Keep PounDEN podcast, part of the Riot Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. I'm your host, Den. You can find me right down there at Keep PounDEN on Twitter and all the fun social networks you guys are on these days. Usually Bobby's here with Chris, but it's just Chris tonight. He's over at Peppa Jack NBB. What's happening, buddy?
Not much, man. Just hustling, man.
There you go. Well, hey, that's all we can ask of you, Chris. You know.
Yeah, getting ready for the big, holiday tomorrow. Ugh.
Oh, I was
And
I was thinking, I thought you were talking about President's Day, because I just realized I have Monday off. That's like a big deal. It's like waking up on Saturday and thinking it's Friday.
yeah,
Yeah,
dude. Luke's school's closed, but Wake County schools aren't closed. So
There you go.
at least I think that's what's going on. So
All right. Well, hey, you can listen to, subscribe, and or watch the podcast over on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and over on the Riot Report if you are more the visual type. We have the videos up there as well. Hey, the quiet period of the NFL is finally over. It was a long week there, Chris. And
yeah, and not only that, but if you go back even the week before the Super Bowl, the NBA was besting us, and we just can't have that.
not at all, especially not the NBA.
I feel like we really gave them the 1-2 after their trade deadline at the beginning of the week, or was that over the weekend?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was pretty recent, and
I can only keep up with one thing here. Yeah.
Monday's news around the league hit pretty hard. So
Cool. Well, hey, we already got some crazy shakeups around the league as well as right here at home regarding the Panthers, of course. Hey, Jared Feinberg will also be joining us in a little bit. If you've been following us, he calls in talking some draft positions tonight. We're going to hit a new one. I'll leave the surprise as to what position we'll be talking about tonight. But hey, let's kick it with some of the big headlines. Of course, one of the biggest ones, Chris, this week: Eric Reed signing that 3-year extension. Right after, we said it would probably be a good idea for the Panthers to do that, so y'all are welcome.
great idea.
Yeah.
They heard us.
No, but seriously, that shoring up that position, like many others have said, was crucial to the Panthers being able to go into this draft and kind of target the areas they want to. If you have to go into this needing safeties, this could have gone downhill. I mean, not downhill, but been a lot more of a mess for Marty Herney and co. Versus now having at least one sure anchor back there, and the others are still up for air. But that one spot was so important. I'm assuming you would agree with that. I think you said that.
Yeah, and I mean, last week I think my exact words were, I'm fine with riding with Rashawn Golden back there. Just we got to figure out what we got. Let's throw him back there. But if Eric Reed's the starter, I feel even better about that. Now I'm not as worried about. Man, I really don't want to spend a first-round pick with all the holes we've got on a safety, and it looks like there's a couple good ones out there. I know Jared told us about his guy at Delaware, I think, and then, of course, Thompson at Alabama.
Yep.
Man, we've just got too many holes to take a safety in the first round. So, man, I love the move. I was only off by $1 million on what I thought, he would command, because what we've seen from safeties on the free agent market has not been great. I mean, look at Trey Boston, He's found himself out of work after the last 2 off seasons, having great seasons.
And we talked about it before. I mean, what was the Kirk Coleman deal that he signed with New Orleans?
He got more there than we would have paid him here, and he barely saw the field this year. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I'll pull it up right now, but he only had like 35 snaps on defense this year or something like that.
Wow.
Paid him a lot, but also, to be fair, Bobby said that he was a spy. That's the only reason they signed him.
Well,
and if we know anything about the Saints, they know how to mismanage a salary cap.
True. Him and Jonathan Stewart are the new spies. Who knows what's up with Chase too? You think he's done? What's up with? I know they bought that company.
I'd be really shocked and it's not. I mean, it's just over for him. I don't think it's a huge secret that he wanted to retire after the Super Bowl season. And the team talked him into coming back. But yeah, I don't see any scenario. Maybe there's a rash of injuries in training camp, but you're not getting a full season out of him. And again, it just happens. Bodies break down. He's had a long run, and he was drafted injured. He was oft injured. He was a great player. So he had his run, and he's probably done.
Yeah, no hard feelings to
Nope.
to Jace too. So, but yeah, Reed getting that extension, he will make $10 million guaranteed, which great deal for both ends. I mean, there's definitely Reed getting his deal and part of it, and also getting a lot of incentive based stuff. If he plays well, he can make his money. Whereas the Panthers have kind of a safety net as far as what they're given to him guaranteed. Were you surprised rather, Chris, that the guarantee was as low as it is? Because I thought it was a little low.
As we, in our group text when we were going on and on about it, I think that the number seemed a little high right off the bat because what was it, 22 million total?
Yeah, it's like 20. It's actually like 23. But yeah.
But the fact that it was, just 10 million in guarantees, I mean, it essentially tells you it's a 2-year deal, even though I think all 10 million of it are due this year, wasn't it? I'm trying to find
Yeah,
that
I think it does. I think it is up front. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a great deal. Not that they're going to look to cut him anytime soon. I think that this is one of those contracts, just because the way it's structured, that we'll see all 3 years of this contract.
I'm into it, and I think that a lot of Panthers fans would agree. I mean, Jason Whitlock might not, but
don't get me started.
Can we talk about just the level of? I didn't even realize what is that show? Like what network is that?
That Cal Turd used to be on with Jason Whitlock.
So it's not like is it even
it's
is
like
it ESPN?
Fox Sports 3.
Okay, yeah, because the other guys had no. It looked like 3 guys that have no clue what they're talking about. They had no stats to back anything up. They're like, yeah, he
the
plays
only
bad.
thing that they threw out there was the Pro Football Focus grade, which I stat checked,
which is super accurate.
I'm sorry, fact checked.
Yeah.
And they were right. He was the 55th out of 64 ranked starting safeties. But let's not forget that this guy came off the street on a Tuesday, practiced, walked
a lot of
through,
people forget that he didn't
started.
have the full season. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, the grade is the grade. Granted, he had a smaller sample size than most of those other guys that played 16 games. But the dude came off the street, didn't know the defense. He was in football shape, but he wasn't in football shape to start and play right away. I mean, there's no. We talk about this all the time. There's no simulating football shape.
Mm-hmm.
But he got up to speed, I thought, pretty quickly, and I think he was an outstanding member of the defense this year.
You can ask Des Bryant about that as well.
Yeah. All right.
And I'm not even like, I'm not really. I don't mean to make fun of him, but honestly, like you could see how just not being in the game doesn't mean your body is ready to just hop back in. But
not to go off on too much of a tangent here, but do you think Des is done? Like done at this point?
I think he'll try one more. I mean, is he still?
He'll try, but who's going to sign a guy that he's not going to be able to play this year?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
I think it never really crossed my mind, but I think he's done.
It's a very good question. I don't know, but just to wrap this one up, I mean, Eric Reed, again, being one of the anchors back there. Everyone's I see some comments coming in. Now tell the Panthers to sign Honey Badger. I already did that. I did that on Twitter, and they've been talking. Hey, they're DBU partners over at LSU. Panthers are kind of like Tigers. I know. Let's do this.
Well, you got Dante Jackson back there, so that's another straw in the hat for DBU. I'd lose my mind if we signed him. We wouldn't be able to sign anybody else, and we might only have like 10 starters on defense.
That's it. We'll just have the most lethal secondary ever. How's that for a Legion of Boom? Bradbury, Jackson,
Man, that just got me kind of excited.
Oh man. Anyway, he said he was up for a challenge, so I don't know if that means he's going back to the Cardinals. Maybe he's playing for the Raiders. Who knows? But that was his latest tweet today.
Yeah, looking at the free agency list out there for free safeties, it's not encouraging, guys.
Yeah,
there's a few guys out there that are going to get paid, and Honey Badger's one of them, but not a lot of guys whose age starts with a 2. I'll put it that way.
Good way to put it. Anyway, that's enough about Eric Reed. Let's hop over to our other topic here. Panthers announcing a coaching shakeup. I just have to keep using the joke that they accepted Creed bombing Ben Jacobs back as with arms wide open as their assistant special teams coach. Looks like he'll join Chase Blackburn back there. So cool little player connection running the special teams over there, huh?
I think I actually like this a lot. I don't know how much impact he's really going to have, but I mean he's only 1 year removed, right? He got cut in training camp.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, you don't see that a lot. You don't see them go that quickly.
It was, at least Chase Blackburn was out a full year, I think, and then interned for a season, either here or somewhere else. But for a guy, maybe he's just one of those dudes who just knows that they're like Charlie Conway, Mighty Ducks legend.
Oh, I wasn't sure if that's where you were going with that.
Yeah.
I was like,
well,
is he talking
Coach
about
Pompey always said that he'd be a better coach than a player. And,
there you go.
Maybe that's what it was with Ben Jacobs.
Well, speaking of that, I saw that Connie from the Mighty Ducks. I for some reason follow her on Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff.
Wet Hot Summer Connie?
Yeah, this is the 25th anniversary, and they're like all getting together, and they have these like cupcakes and like. I'm all for that. I'm a big Ducks fan. Ducks Fly Together, of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw a couple weeks ago.
Oh, they were at the game.
Yeah,
right?
the Ducks were playing in New York against the Rangers.
Yep.
And Keenan was there. Danny Tamborelli of Pete and Pete fame. There was a couple of those guys there.
Dude, those movies, top notch for me.
Dude, I've watched Mighty Ducks 2. God, I don't know, maybe 50 times in the last month, just because Luke is such a hockey monster at this point. And so, God, we watched it all the time. I could probably do the dialogue.
We'll do that someday, but besides Ben Jacobs, I didn't mean to just touch upon Ben, but of course Sam Mills III has been added as Ron's game management coach. We talked about that a few weeks ago about kind of the irony of having a game management coach. Like, isn't that the head coach's job? That I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on Ron.
I'm not mad at that being a position because we know that in-game stuff isn't always Ron's strong suit. And if he's got somebody on his shoulder saying, Coach, we can take him down to the 2-minute warning, but you're not going to have timeouts. Like that kind of stuff, having somebody whose sole focus is that's pretty cool. I think that's probably a good idea. The one thing I was really surprised, we didn't see a holdback coach.
Yeah.
Those are all the rage now.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen that. I mean, when you think about a head coach, though, I mean, it's so easy for us to. Don't get me wrong. You should know when to call timeouts, but I can't even imagine being a head coach and how many guys are talking in your ear at the same time. You know what I mean? It's so to take that responsibility and put it on a coach that you can trust. Does that mean that you are bad at that? Like is it? Should we let Ron off the hook here in the fact that he needs a guy?
I'm totally, because he's trying to make it better. You know, he's trying to make the situation better. And let's not forget, Ron is calling defensive plays this year.
He is.
So that's a whole nother, set of problems he's got to deal with. So if he's more focused on the defense and we have one guy who's solely focused on clock management and whatnot, dude, I'm all for that.
So my issue, not issue, but my question to when Ron does what he's doing this year, like when your offense is on the field, what is Ron Rivera doing or going to be doing? Like at some point, you got to talk to your defensive guys. Is it fair to say at some point he could not be, watching the offense with under a microscope? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is it Norv's? Is that Norv's thing? And Ron just kind of tunes out. Like, how does that work?
I got to imagine that Norm's got total control here. Where I see Ron chiming in on offense is, we going for it on fourth down or we punting. Like that's the kind of thing I see him.
And that's hard sometimes for him.
Yeah. Well, maybe now that he's got less to worry about,
yeah.
Maybe he'll decide to go for it on fourth down more.
Yeah. Anyway, adding a third there, Everett Brown also named the assistant linebackers coach. Yeah, so a lot of
respect on it, man.
Three Panthers, big Panthers names there, all joining the coaching staff. I think that's at least something to be said about that. So pretty cool that they're all hopping on.
I got a kick out of the fact that he was brought in as a linebacker coach, because I can remember when he was drafted, me screaming, he's way too small to be a defensive end. He's an outside linebacker.
Yeah, Rudy. Right?
Well, at least nobody traded a first-round pick for Rudy, though.
True. Well, hey, Alex Arma always trying to make the news here in Charlotte, but delivering a textbook. I'm going to call it textbook because I just assume it was, and I'm gonna use my fun Boston accent to say armbar, whatever. That's my joke on the screen. You either like it or you don't. But anyway, Alex Arma did stop a would-be thief of his own car. He has an app that tells you like when someone's in your car. Like,
yes, it's like ringing for your car.
What? Yeah, but like, I just imagine like myself having that. Someone hopping into my terribly low-priced car and saying that someone's near it. Like that must be nice to need one of those. Yeah, just take it, please. But,
I got a feeling that Arma's probably driving something a little fancier than you.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. But apparently, yes, did get the notification. Confronted the guy. They had this. It's kind of a weird story. They have this like normal conversation, and they walk to the concierge desk, and then he changes his story and then tries to run. And Alex, like in a true, sitcom 24 Jack Bauer style, apparently put the guy in an armbar and waited for the police. Yeah, I love that. That is you have to like that from your fullback. I mean, keep him busy in the off season. So shout out to Alex.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I used to describe, or one term I used to describe Alex when we drafted him, because remember, he was a defensive end, he was a tight end. What else did he play in college?
He played tight everything. End, and didn't he play D end?
Yeah, I think so.
And tight end. I think those.
So that dude's just country strong.
Yep, he's a big boy.
I'm not messing with that.
And I also read that when fantasy owners found out it was Alex Arma, they were upset it wasn't Christian McCaffrey. So,
man. Christian, don't interfere with anything.
My favorite thing at being what I mean by that is my favorite thing. Obviously, watching the game in Boston, there aren't many like Panthers fans, but there are so many fans of the Panthers when they get down by the goal line because someone in that bar has Greg Olsen or Cam Newton or Christian McCaffrey, and they want them to score. And when Alex Arma takes the goal line carry up the middle, I get so happy because I don't know. I don't do fantasy football. And I think it ruins people's brains sometimes.
It absolutely does.
That's my favorite thing, and that's why I was saying that joke. Anyway, moving on. I have to touch upon this one because it was a big topic over the weekend. I tweeted it out there and did not expect the response of the NFL drop rates this year, and I do understand that Devin Funchess had that Detroit game that basically set him into that category. But number one in drop rate in the NFL this year, and number 7 was Kelvin Benjamin. And the comment that I made was, wow, two of the top 7 were at one time Cam's number 1 receivers, and the barrage of Cam throws the ball too hard, people just came out of the woodwork.
Sure, I mean it's always Cam's fault,
and you know
that,
and. I'm not going to sit here because my favorite part about podcasts is I can say things and record them and always go back to them and be like, yes, I did say that. And I have said that pre-Christian McCaffrey, one of Cam Newton's flaws was on checkdowns. He would absolutely rifle the ball for no reason to whether it was Stu or someone in the flat that really wasn't a great receiver. They would go a lot of times. They would go off those guys' hands. Some of them for picks. One of them was a Brenton Burson pick. But that's kind of different than this because he's not checking the ball down to Devin Funchess.
I agree.
Christian McCaffrey also has 107 catches and 1 drop. So if you want to talk about that, it's half and half. And
he's arguably taking passers at a closer range with just as much velocity.
Yeah, and Christian said down at the Super Bowl, he said. Head coaches and quarterbacks receive all of the blame and all of the credit, and that's 100% true in the NFL. I mean, actually, the Patriots and the Panthers had the exact same amount of drops this year. Is anyone saying Tom Brady throws the ball too hard?
No, because we all know he has a noodle arm.
Yeah, and so it's like Cam doesn't receive that half of the, maybe his number 1 receivers have let him down. Let alone that Cam also leads the league over the last 3 years in dropped first downs. And like I said, when you're a team like the Panthers over the last 5 or so years, you've been a run-heavy team, and I would argue that those dropped first downs would affect a team like that more than a team that's just coming out gunning and throwing 45 passes a game. You just get them on the next one,
Yeah.
So anyway, going through the passes too. I mean, there really aren't many this year that I would put on Cam. I mean, you can't defend any of Devin's in that Detroit game, but is there, just to play devil's advocate, Chris, is there any side of this that is Cam's fault that Devin Funchess is number 1 in the league in NFL drop rate?
No, because if they're calling it a drop, that means it was a catchable pass.
That's what I said. If you want to rip apart incompletions, straight up incompletions, or interceptions, or overthrows, or balls thrown at his feet, fine. I'll talk about Cam all day, and let's go through the film. But a drop is an actual statistic that is ruled the receiver should have caught it. I mean, I don't understand why we're talking about Cam throwing the ball too hard to a professional receiver
who's wearing gloves that it's literally impossible to drop anything out of when you're holding them.
Yeah, those things are pretty intense, man.
Yeah. You know who we need to talk to on this, and we haven't had him in a while, but our pal Kean Fahey, because his whole statistics with catchable, uncatchable,
Yes,
all that.
yes.
I bet I would get some good insight from him.
Okay. All right, well, let's keep moving here because we do have to get Jared on in a minute.
Wait a minute, I'm having a flashback. I feel like he actually just, and I'm looking it up, I feel like he just said he went through all of the Funchess tape from this year. And
Okay.
I feel like he said something like, I threw up 3 times watching Funchess' film or something like that.
Dude, I started to go through them because I posted that in Boston and it just got ripped apart. And so I started to go through them, and it's tough, dude. That Detroit game alone is tough to sit through. But whatever. We can argue about Devin Funchess till the cows come home. I don't want to. I don't want to rip him apart. I'm just discussing the people that say, oh, and the best part is a lot of those people actually are so dumb they don't realize Kelvin Benjamin isn't on the Panthers anymore. So if he goes to another team, he's not on there because Cam's throwing the ball too hard. So come on, guys, figure it out.
It's too hard for some people to do research.
Yeah. Well, let's see. NFL free agency is officially open. Well, I guess it was always sort of open. But big news today. At least trade news today. Joe Flacco being traded from the Ravens to the Broncos. We had mentioned that way back when, as far as where Flacco could go. We said the Broncos were a team. I don't know how serious we were. But my comment was, it made so much sense as far as a destination for Flacco that I thought it would never happen.
Right.
And here he is. How do you feel about that trade today?
Well, this is just, again, the John Elway's never-ending quest for a quarterback. Even, he had a couple good years with the Peyton guy, but he was so hopped up on PEDs and HGH that he...
Well, I thought Paxton was going to be their guy.
No. Rule number 1, never trust somebody with a soul patch. Can't do it. And a quarterback? No way. The move makes a ton of sense, but here, I'm going to throw an astounding number at you. As of right now, assuming this trade does go through, and they can't make a corresponding move just yet, but the Broncos have $49 million of their cap tied up between Case Keenum and Joe Flacco.
I think the move right now is to shop Keenum.
Sure, but nobody's going to trade for that contract. No, dude, nobody's trading for a $21 million cap hit on Case Keenum.
I didn't realize it was that high.
$21 million.
Okay.
Guess how much they have to eat if they cut him?
9?
10.
Okay, that was close.
So, you're still going to cut him because you're saving $11 million at the end of the day. But
that's still a significant
difference. That's a big chunk of your salary cap. So I've got a feeling, I started thinking about this, and you know what the situation reminded me of?
What's that?
Brock Osweiler, Houston Texans, traded to Cleveland Browns for a second-round pick.
Yep.
Or with a second-round pick. that the Broncos are going to have to do something like that to get him off the books.
Yeah, the Texans ate that one for a while.
You can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
You can't afford to cut him. You just can't.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I didn't realize his contract was that high.
Yeah, and what did he get last year? He got 30. It was a 2-year, $36 million deal.
Okay. Interesting. I saw one of those memes that was like John Elway, and there's 2 buttons, and one was bad QB, and another one was another bad QB. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Take them all. Yeah, I saw that as well. So yeah, but that kind of got me thinking. With the teams that have all that cap space out there, and we've seen recently with trades in the NFL, it's becoming a lot more like the NBA, where you just take risks. You got to do what you got to do to get things set. But when you've got over 5% of your salary tied up in dead money on one player, you can't cut that.
Well, I mean, going back to Flacco though, I mean, call him elite, whatever you want to joke with. I think Flacco is still good. Like
he's better than Case Keenum.
Yeah, exactly. I still that's what I'm going. I still think it's an upgrade, but I don't know. It's kind of we'll see what happens. Who knows? He'll probably turn the team around, and we'll be on freezing cold takes in a few months.
Well, but he's gonna have, because I feel like I've read that. What's her name? Emmanuel Sanders is like another one of their top players to be cut type situation. That they're gonna they've got to start a rebuild at some point. But I guess you don't trade for Joe Flacco if you're, starting a rebuild.
It's true. Well, some other names in there, of course, Eric Reed. Kareem Hunt is back in the NFL for now. I know he's on the exempt list. That was a interesting move by the Browns, who are like the last team in the league that needs a running back. That seemed a little weird to me. Kyler Murray declares, for now, says he will be going to the NFL. I just saw that the Patriots could trade up for him, or that's a scenario that someone came up with. And
you ready for my theory?
Here you go. What? He's going to play baseball?
I think he's going to go number 1 overall.
What? To the Cardinals?
Cardinals.
Well, you said that before, but did you say Kyler Murray?
I did.
You
did.
Remember
we were talking about...
There you go. So, hey, if he gets drafted number 1, you said that months ago.
Yeah.
Remember that, everyone online.
Check the tape, guys.
Yeah.
But I think that Josh Rosen will end up in New England.
Oh, boy. Okay. Interesting.
I think at this point, the best you're going to get for Josh Rosen in a trade is maybe a 3rd-round pick.
Yep.
And, man, don't the Patriots always seem to have a ton of those middle-round picks to build their roster with?
They have 8 picks this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
My dog has just entered the studio, by the way. The last time this happened, we had a very bad incident. So just a heads up. Hey, buddy. Well, of course, the other name on there, Chris, as far as trade scenarios, I guess there's 2 of them now. Odell Beckham Jr. being added to the possible trade scenario, but Antonio Brown, the big one, finally officially requesting a trade out of Pittsburgh. I saw that a number of ESPN analysts, saying the Panthers are in their top teams to make this trade still, after all this time, after all the money they don't have. I don't know. I mean, is there a part of your mind that says, whether you agree with it or not, is there a part of you that says this could happen? You know what I mean? Or is it completely off the table for you?
I put it for the Panthers at under 5%.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. Antonio Brown has a cap hit of, I believe, and I'm pulling it up right now, but I believe it's $21 million. Yeah, $22.1 million. If they trade him, that becomes a $21 million, if they cut him, it's a $21 million dead cap hit. So they have to trade him. They're not cutting him.
Right.
The Panthers can't afford to take on $22 million. Now, could we trade for him and then he restructures the contract? Maybe that's something that he has worked out in advance. But let's not forget that this dude's held out how many times over the years? 1 year or 2 years after signing a deal. I don't think that's in his
Well, I mean, and I
his
see
makeup, if you will,
there's a number
to
of,
take less money.
yeah, and there's a number of comments coming in right now about current Panthers though that are overpaid, and
Plenty of them.
You'd basically have to restructure your whole team to bring this guy in. I mean, that's what it is.
We can't even make the trade because we don't have the cap space.
Right.
I get that we can restructure it at a certain point, but in order to make a trade in the NFL, you have to have the cap space available ASAP to absorb it. You can't be over the cap.
Right.
So, let's just say his $22 million, we'd have to cut. God, we'd have to cut a lot. We'd have to cut Dontari Poe, which I'm fine with. Matt Khalil, that's going to cost you money to cut. But as it sits now, dude, we've only got $15 million in cap space. And that's including Eric Reid's contract already.
Wow. Yeah, that was another piece that did come in. So I saw the fans, though, are burning the jerseys already in Pittsburgh.
People are so stupid.
So here's the thing, though. There's three types of sports fans that don't exist to me. Like they're not real. And I mean, like, it's completely fake and made up and media clicks, right?
Yeah.
It's the burn your jersey guy, or girl, which I'm sure that someone has done that. Sure. But the majority of those videos are for whatever.
Oh, it's 100% for attention.
There's the I smashed my TV guy. No one's breaking their TV over a football game.
Oh, I don't know, man. In my old house,
I've almost done it over
There's some
Madden.
holes in the wall around my TV where I miss throwing the Xbox controller.
But I don't know, because some of them take the TV off the wall, and it's like, oh, weird. Now there's no if I ever did that, there'd be surge protectors coming out of the wazoo.
Yeah, but that's because we're organized people.
True. And then there's I tattooed, that my team winning the Super Bowl before the year, before they play.
Yeah.
And those people just aren't real to me. So
it's like the first time I saw somebody wearing a MAGA hat in real life.
Yeah.
Add that to the list.
Hey, we didn't talk about OBJ though. OBJ also apparently on the trade block. Is that something that's more realistic for the Panthers?
He has a $21 million cap hit.
Same thing?
It's $1 million less. But this contract in the hockey world, I like to call it a poison contract. You know what the dead cap hit is if they decide to just cut him outright?
No, what's that?
$35 million.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. $35 million. And I'm looking at the Giants roster, dude. They are loaded up on saturated contracts. Olivier Vernon, $20 million. Nate Solder, $17. Janoris Jenkins, $15.
And the comments are coming in. I know he's not getting traded. I'm saying, or not officially getting traded, but that was a rumor today. I'm just addressing the tweet. If that did come about, saying that people would not be surprised the way things are going right now that they would trade him, but obviously Panthers. Whenever anyone sees a number one receiver come up, Panthers should trade for him, right, Chris?
For some reason. Let's see what we got, guys. Let's see what we got in Samuel and DJ Moore before we go absorb a $21 million cap hit for, I don't know, has OBJ even played in a playoff game in his career?
I believe he has. Sorry, I'm trying to get Jared our number here. Apparently I gave him the wrong number. He's going to be calling in. 1 sec. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think that this is really a trade free agency here for the Panthers. I think we could talk about some names that are on the list. I talked to you about Jamie Collins. Is it weird that I want linebacker depth besides Jermaine Carter Jr.?
No, it's not weird that you want depth, but I think that he's a weird name because I think he's a tweener. Like I think he's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker than he would be a defense. He wouldn't be a defensive end in our system.
No, not as a DN. I'm talking about.
I don't think he's a traditional 4-3 linebacker.
Okay. Well, you had thrown some names out there in free agency. I think you threw out the veterans list, right?
Well, that was a list of players that potentially would be salary cap casualties.
Right.
And I thought it was a really interesting list. And for me, it was the two players the Dolphins were going to cut, Robert Quinn and Andre Branch.
Yep.
And if you remember last year, maybe 2 years ago, maybe it was last year, going into free agency, I really wanted to sign Andre Branch, but the Dolphins signed him like 2 days before free agency began. And then, Robert Quinn, yes, he is a Tar Heel legend, but Robert Quinn also.
Let's be real. That's why you want him.
Sure, but Robert Quinn also, when playing in that 3-4 or 4-3 defense, because the Rams unloaded him. The Rams gave him away.
Yeah.
And that's a dude with multiple, I'm pretty sure he's had multiple 20-sack seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still pretty young. He's only 28 years old. That's somebody who I would love to see. Let's see how many.
So Devontae Parker was also on the on that list.
Yeah, pass.
We'll see. Anyway,
I'm call me crazy, but I'm totally cool with rolling with DJ.
No, I think offensively,
Curtis.
I think offensively we don't need to add anything. Realistically.
We already extended Jarius, didn't we?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I feel like we did.
We should. No, they did.
Yeah.
Yes. They
so
did.
Going with those guys as your top 3 options.
Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you draft somebody in the 6th round as a punt returner that's also a receiver, great.
Sure. There you go.
I think our free agency outside of offensive line is going to be 100% defense.
Mm-hmm. I think it has to be after last year, but. Hey, we got to get to Jared here. Like I said, each week we have Jared Feinberg. He's over at JRod Draft Scout over on Twitter, joining us on the phone now. Hopefully, I think I gave him the right number this time. Jared, you over there?
I'm here, man.
There he is. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Jared was last week. I was all organized, Chris. I gave him the phone number, all that, and then I'm like, yeah, hey, call in now, bud. We're good for you. And I realized I didn't give him any phone number to call. And then I gave him like 17 wrong phone numbers because I was trying to talk to you. And here we are. Anyway, with Jared. Jared's on with us. Each week we'd go through a different position. That way we don't overload it with names. We've talked about just the standard defense, maybe going to a 3-4. Last week, Jared, perfect timing. We had you on to talk about safeties because that was the big talk on Twitter and all that about the Panthers maybe going hard on a safety, which we thought was a little weird. We talked about how getting Eric Reed would change all that. And like 4 days later, here we are talking about Eric Reed signing. So let's hop over to another position this week. And I think this is going to be a pretty interesting one for most Panthers fans. We're going to touch upon the edge rushers this week. Jared, how's that sound?
That sounds great, man. Can't wait.
So let's just kick it off. Just by the top here, who are the top pass rushers right now that would be in play for Carolina? Of course, we're not going to go with unrealistic picks, as far as like top 3 people, top 5 people. Right. Let's talk about at least first rounders. Who are some of the not only top names out there, but the players that also fit in the Panthers scheme and why they might fit in there. Who you liking?
I think Keelan Farrell and Montez Sweat, Clemson and Mississippi State, both are in play for the Panthers in the first round at the moment. Both are very similar, in my opinion, as pass rushers. And while they aren't going to have like any bend, they'll make your life a living hell with their excellent pass rush moves, counters. Plus, they are great run defenders and can set the edge well.
There you go. And I think that. I mean, the Panthers generally don't have a ton of trouble with mobile quarterbacks. And I don't know if that's just because, like some people talk about, you say that edge and that aggressiveness around the edge. Sometimes that, I don't want to say it can be a bad thing, but as far as the Panthers defense has been able to keep some of the mobile runners and as they keep coming in the NFL in front of them, is that something that you kind of look for more now too versus just being able to get around your guy? Is that how important is that contain piece of a D end, especially for the Panthers defense?
It's very important. We're going to be playing against teams next year with a ton of mobile quarterbacks. So you got to have a true edge setting pass rusher. Keelan Farrell has faced plenty of mobile quarterbacks as time in Clemson. Played against Daniel Jones, who is surprisingly mobile, and I think he ran for like 150 yards one game. So Jones, mobile quarterback, and Farrell, I think, can be that guy that he has the athleticism, underrated athleticism, to contain any mobile quarterback we face this upcoming season if they were to take Farrell at 16.
Okay, I know that is a big popular name, especially coming from Clemson, that we've been talking about. But that's good for the early rounds. But one thing that is we've noticed in Carolina is they've taken some later round defensive ends who just kind of become meh. Besides Mario Addison, Haynes didn't really see the field. Is there value in the later rounds this year that can someone pan out that we don't have to take necessarily in a top, 2, 3, top whatever, first, second, or even third rounds?
There is a couple guys I wrote down that could be in play for the Panthers in day 2 or 3 are Alabama's Christian Miller, Michigan's Chase Winovich, and Iowa's Anthony Nelson. Both have the ability to play all 3 downs. My favorite out of the group is Christian Miller, who has terrific bend and rush counters, and he's got a great first step off the snap.
Okay. Well, switching out of the straight D end out of it. I mean, we've seen that Ron loves this whole joker roll thing, and the fact of maybe going to a 3-4. Does that play into, or is there anyone that you can see that can do that kind of 3-4, maybe D end, but also drop into coverage? I don't know if you really call him a joker roll at that point, or if it's really just a 3-4 D end. Anyone you can see like versatile like that?
The guy I just mentioned, Christian Miller,
okay,
at Alabama, he dropped into coverage a lot at Alabama. I saw him making plays down the field in coverage, making one-on-one tackles in the flats, and he's the perfect guy if the Panthers were to go or were to move to a 3-4 defense. There's another guy that I do think could be available for Carolina at 16 if they were to move to a 3-4 scheme. Tashia Polite out of Florida, terrific bend, like I said, with Miller, but he has a higher upside, more explosiveness, but he's very raw in terms of being a run defender, which is kind of a big, we need a good, run defending edge rusher for the Carolina Panthers if we were to move to a 3-4 defense.
Or at least someone to funnel them to Luke and co.
Right.
And isn't that the guy that Bobby's super high on? Isn't that his dream girl?
That's actually Brian Burns, I believe.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Brian Burns is actually who I was going to talk about next. But I just want to touch upon one thing you said there was about making the plays in the flat. I don't know what it is, but the Panthers really get destroyed on screenplays. So I don't know. Maybe those kind of guys are a little valuable here. I'd like to see someone that can make tackles in the flat for losses and whatnot, versus seeing a guy
I would like to say this
with bend.
like everyone says. This is in my opinion, this is a deep pass rusher group for the draft. You can get a solid pass rusher in day 3. I'm not that deep yet in terms of evaluations of prospects in those rounds yet, but from the looks of it, there's plenty of value in day 3 of the draft, which is rounds 4 through 7, that the Panthers could take at some point. One name that popped up in my mind was Joe Jackson out of Miami. Haven't really looked at him much, but from the clips I've seen on Twitter, he looks pretty intriguing for a day 3 pick.
Okay, there you go. There's your late rounder. We just talked about Brian Burns. That's Bobby's guy. He's not here tonight, unfortunately. But any potential of Brian Burns falling to 16? It seems like that would kind of be a lucky scenario, and I would assume that if he was there, that might be your Panthers guy right there. What's happening with Brian Burns right now?
The NFL right now, they're wanting to see at the combine what Brian Burns, what his height and weight is. A lot of people are very about his frame and his weight, because he looks about 6'4", 235 around there. I think that's around the same size that Marquise Haynes is. But
Okay.
Burns is a much better pass rusher than Haynes and has a much higher upside and much higher ceiling than Haynes. I could see him being at 16 if, like, the size really does scare off a lot of NFL teams. I think guys like Nick Bosa, Keelan Farrell, Shea Polite, Josh Allen, Montez Sweat possibly.
Mm-hmm. That's a big name coming up here in the comments. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and Brian Burns could be available at 16.
You know, like I'm watching some highlights of him right now. You know, like just his frame reminds me of Leonard Floyd.
Okay.
That's the comp that I have for him right now.
Yeah.
I think he can be what Leonard Floyd was this year. Floyd didn't really develop into a good pass rusher until this year. I think Burns has a chance to be what Floyd is or was this year for years to come, and even better.
Man, my dog can hear you guys talking, and he's doing the head turn. You know, when the dogs do the head turns? And I'm trying to get him away from my studio stuff. That's why I'm fidgeting around to all you people on the live. But, again, Jared Feinberg on the line here. He's over at J-Rod Draft Scout, rather, on Twitter. He calls in each week with some draft analysis. Wrapping up the edge rushers here this week, Jared. You know, defensive end is such an easy position to get caught up in the draft, but from what what we've seen is that if you don't take those guys in the early rounds, a lot of them don't really pan out to be, the household names. But granted, you're our draft guy. How heavy of a draft need is defensive end with some of the names we were just talking about on free agency? Like, is this something that when the time comes, all of a sudden the Panthers could share up a name in free agency, and all of a sudden D end isn't such a need? Or do you envision the Panthers being pretty set on looking for their DE in the draft?
I think the Panthers are probably going to end up looking heavily at defensive end in the draft. I don't think they have enough cap space for guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Frank Clark, Dante Fowler, Ezekiel Ansah. They're not going to have enough cap space to sign those guys to 3-4 year deals. I think they got lucky this year that this edge group for the NFL draft is the deepest I've seen in a couple of years, probably maybe since the Myles Garrett group and possibly since that 2011 group, more than likely.
Into that.
Yeah, most of the mock drafts I look at, they have like 10 defensive ends going in the first round.
I'll take that.
It's a crazy draft for defensive linemen and pass rushers. But, yeah, I don't see Carolina really going hard at defensive ends or even defensive linemen overall in free agency. The cap space, like, you got to restructure contracts. You got to cut some guys. Torrey Smith could be cut. Dante Poe could be cut. I mean, so many things have to happen for us to sign a big free agent.
Right.
Or
right.
even trade.
And not to mention, we got to trade for Antonio Brown still, so there's even more cap space out the window.
Yeah. We were just talking about that
earlier. I do not think Antonio Brown will be a Panther. As much as guys are saying Antonio Brown should be a Carolina Panther, he's not going to be a Carolina
But he was wearing
Panther.
that helmet.
Like, we'd be broke. We're broke as it is, but we're not going to have
like Chris said that.
money left.
Yeah, like Chris said, that would be your move. That would be it. That would be literally all you can do. So, if you can even do it,
at 7-9 again.
Yeah. Anyway, Jared, always appreciate you hopping on. Jared's been doing this for 3 weeks now, and we're going to keep it rolling right through Nashville. And we'll talk to you when we're down in Nashville too, and see how these picks are coming. But next week we'll tackle another one. We like to keep it kind of I like to say we like to keep it a secret, but really what that means is I don't know. I don't have one in mind, so I'll text you.
I got one before we let Jared go.
Go ahead. What's up?
So I'm sure you saw that Jeffrey Simmons got hurt this week, and a lot of people had him mid first round. Obviously, he's probably not going to play football this year. How high do you think he could still end up going just on potential alone? Do you think somebody's going to take a a fourth, fifth round flyer on him and just know he's a red shirt?
Him falling to the fourth or fifth round would just be insane. I think he.
Well, who did that last year?
Extremely talented.
Who's the team that that drafted the was it Dallas?
I remember 2 years ago that Denver did it with Jake Butt.
No, Dallas did it this year, didn't they?
They did it a couple years ago with was it Jalen Smith?
Yeah,
Jalen Smith.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Jeffrey Simmons, he's a top 5, top 10 player in the upcoming draft. He's not going to fall past the third round. He's going to fall early second round. And honestly, if he were available in the second round when Carolina's on the clock, I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina went with a defensive lineman or in the second round.
Man, even knowing you wouldn't have him for a full year, but I guess the value's there.
Yeah, the value is there, but
you got to look ahead, Chris. It's not all about teams don't have that window sometimes. So I get it.
Yeah, but you won't. If you end up drafting Simmons in the second round, and Poe is still on the roster, you don't have to deal with the dead money next year because that won't even be around. You can cut Poe next year, have Simmons start, and you got a nice pass rush on the interior.
So you look at him more as a defensive tackle than an end?
Yes, I do. Well,
okay.
Yeah.
If we were to move to a 3-4 defense, he'd probably be a 3-4 defensive end.
Okay.
Not an outside linebacker. I don't think he's that mobile.
Sweet. Well, hey, that'll be interesting. See if anyone does take their shot there, and when they do, I guess. But again, Jared's over at JRod Draft Scout on Twitter. Check out his stuff. Always writing up good stuff. I saw you had your big board up there, at least for the Panthers. And we'll be going through a bunch of that. And like I said, we've already attacked safeties, edge rushers, and just the defense as a whole. Maybe next time we'll hop over to the offensive side of the ball. How's that?
That sounds good. And remind me, I'm probably going to send my Carolina Panthers draft board to you, just like a view only, so you can have an idea of who Carolina could be targeting throughout the draft.
Sounds good, man. We'll be looking forward to that. And I'll retweet that out. We'll talk to you next week. All right, Jared?
All righty.
Thanks, Jared.
Have a good one, bub.
Take care, guys.
And again, that is Jared Feinberg. He's over at JRod Draft Scout. He's our draft guy, keeping us informed as to every position. And by the way, at Here's a Champion says hello, Jared. So apparently you know him. Anyway, Chris, we're getting towards the end here. I did want to pull in our friend questions. We get questions submitted to us each week on our various social networks, and we take a couple of them and we read them on the air here. So let's just hop right into these. And I don't know what order they're in. I just have numbers. So let's go with number 1. Oh, Chris, we didn't even talk about our favorite new team. Or your new favorite team.
Salt Lake City Stallions?
Yeah, I went all in on them. I was
the Wild Stallions?
That defense for their first 2 drives was just Canton worthy. And then they kind of fell apart. But that was a tough offense to watch. But I did have a question here this week regarding the AAF. It comes from Lynn on Twitter. She says, regarding those AAF contracts, does anything preclude the players from being poached by NFL teams?
I don't know if anything in the contract does, but this is only, a 6-week ordeal start to finish?
Yeah, so I actually
I think the idea is to have these guys done so they can be on training camp rosters.
Right, and I think that the goal, I think when the NFL kind of realized, maybe they already did realize this, but is that this could be kind of their developmental league. And, a lot of times instead of having to go sign, Chris Clark from off the street, maybe you can look towards a league like this. And Bill Polian, co-founder of the league, did say that the players do get 3-year non-guaranteed contracts worth $250K. So it's
non-guaranteed. You know what that's worth, right?
Right. So it's roughly $75K a year, non-guaranteed, with a couple extra incentives each year. And but it says players can leave the league at any time to go to the NFL. It seems like they haven't really thought this out because Polian again says it's currently unclear whether a player's rights will revert back to the AAF after their 3 years, or if their 3-year clock stops ticking if they do go to the NFL. So,
well, I don't think we're going to see a lot of guys playing 3 years in this league.
no,
I could see guys in the new version of the XFL, sticking around for a few years. But I think this is really just because the one thing that the league needs is it needs more snaps because you're never going to get better quarterbacks and better linemen without more snaps.
Yeah,
and I could totally see this being absorbed by the NFL. I mean, it already has that feel to it, with the games being on CBS and on the NFL Network, and of course the names attached to it. So I think probably next year this will be an NFL owned property.
it's interesting.
Maybe not to the level of like NFL Europe was truly supposed to be just a secondary league. I think this is really just a farm league.
Yeah, I mean it's at least fun to watch. I do like the rules. I do like
I love the replay.
I'm not sure how I feel about the whole onside kick going for 4th and 12 thing. That's kind of weird. But do you know what I'm talking about?
The NFL took so many things from the XFL.
Yeah.
In terms of innovation, I think that if they can pull anything from this, it's got to be that replay. Because watching that woman who was in charge of the replay for that game, literally say it out like she knew she was on camera, but she wasn't performing. She was talking the play out, and she kept saying, "That's no catch, no catch, no catch." Wait a minute.
Yeah,
at this angle, his hands under the ball. He has a knee down. That's a touchdown. Ground causes the fumble.
But Chris, you can't do that in a corrupt system. Like imagine watching that on the Cotchery catch. Like, hey guys, this is a catch. Yeah, but Peyton Manning needs to win this game, or going through that on the Dez catch, or yeah. I don't know. I feel like the NFL won't do that, and it kind of tells a little tale. I
honestly think there's going to be such an outcry for this.
Yeah.
That I think it's almost going to force their hand.
Okay. Well, Lynn had a second question here. Who stands out to you? Anyone? And it was nice to see people like Asiata out there. Kalen Clay is on that team as well.
Trent Richardson's on the Birmingham Iron.
Yeah, but it looks like the Orlando team is kind of had that fun Philly special QB play. They seem to be the team to watch right now. But
yeah,
I'll stick with my Stallions. Although defensive tackle Poop Johnson just did sign with the Toronto Argos.
Poor guy.
He was their number 2 pick. Did you know that?
It's Booger's cousin. Did you know that?
Come on, don't laugh at my joke, please. No.
No, I got you.
Get it? Number 2.
Number 2. Yeah, no, I think we all got it.
Yeah. Anyway, no, Orlando seems to be the team to watch, but whatever. Anyway, thanks for that question, Lynn. Well, Chris, what's your thought on the AAF? Because Big Cat and Barstool saying basically, let's see who watches next week. I think it was kind of the honeymoon thing. Do you think that people? I get that they strategically put it in cities that don't have a getting here on Twitter that the Legends are the team to watch. I don't know what city that is.
That's Atlanta, so they are automatically, the worst team ever.
So I get that they strategically put it in a lot of cities that don't have a pro football team or a pro team at all.
Well, and I think the idea was to do it regionally with college footballs teams. So like Orlando is meant to draw Florida State, Miami, and Florida players.
Okay.
Birmingham is supposed to draw Alabama, right. Auburn, Tennessee, that SEC region.
But do you think as a nation it will have the kind of ratings that we saw? Can it
probably
sustain that?
Not.
Yeah.
Because I think the president had already been said, and Big Cat brought this up as well, that the XFL's inaugural game had 10 million viewers as well. So I think there was a lot of curiosity. Because but let's be honest, the football wasn't super great,
Yeah.
It was football and it was entertaining, and all the stuff starters. That's super sweet.
And I think you can at least relate with some people. Like, I mean, there are names like Asiata. I guess I found out today.
Christian Hackenberg.
Yeah, I found out Asiata's like the mayor of his town, and like, well, I'm not the actual mayor, but that example, everyone loves him there. So I think that when you start seeing names like that, and you're like, oh yeah, Nick Folk. I remember him. That makes it a little more fun than watching the XFL.
Kickers are the one position where I think you're going to see a lot of these guys on teams next year.
Yeah.
Because the kicking has been so bad in the NFL. So here's my
what do you mean?
kind of closing.
You guys told me the kicking was good this year.
Kickers aren't people in my book, but kind of my thought on it is I think the XFL is trying to create a league to compete, and people won't accept that it can compete with the NFL, and that's probably why it won't work again. This is meant to complement it.
Right.
This is meant to purely be developmental. Is it always going to be nationally televised? Probably not. Could it find a home on like some regional Fox Sports channels? Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't. Again, I think they're gonna once the NFL absorbs it, and maybe you see these teams subsidizing it because paying these guys $75,000 a year, and they're dressing 44 players for a game, plus you're paying coaches. You can't tell me that because a lot of these stadiums were 80% empty.
Yeah, they were pretty. Yeah.
Like they're gonna have to be subsidized by somebody, and of course they're getting CBS money, they're getting NFL Network money because it was on there, and of course ad money. But that money you're spreading it pretty thin at this point. So I think as long as we take it for what it is, and it's developmental league, that it's going to be fine.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot worse things on TV.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. Like cornhole. Does anyone actually watch the cornhole? I mean, I respect that they're doing it.
I've watched it a few times. Not
have
on
you
purpose,
sat there and been like,
on at the bar?
Wow.
No, not really.
Guys are great.
I can at least get on the board every time.
Yeah,
I might not throw it in the hole, but I can hit the board.
I could find my 5 drunk friends, whatever, that could probably beat one of those teams in cornhole. They heard it. Mark it down.
Breaking news. Check the tape.
Yep.
We got receipts.
Anyway, final question comes all the way from the UK. Thanks to our friend Delassie out there. Says,
pip, cheerio.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll see you soon over there. Says, what does Ron really have to do this year to keep his job, whether you think he's on a hot seat or not? And how does Eric Washington still have his? I don't know. I think Eric Washington, I think Ron realized that maybe he shouldn't have promoted him up to that so quickly.
Yeah.
Do you get that feeling too?
I fully agree that Ron knows he was in over his head.
Yeah.
And it's nobody's fault but Ron's.
Mm-hmm. So, on the first part of that, what's the line this year for Ron Rivera?
I truly think
is it a playoff game? Is it a better than 8-8? Like where do you call Ron Rivera's kind of bottom line right now?
If he's not in the playoffs, then he's done. I still think maybe even a wild card might not be good enough for Uncle Dave.
The new Uncle Dave.
Yeah, if he wins the division, I think that keeps his job. But I think he's got to get at least out of the wild card round to guarantee his job.
Well, but what if out of the wild card? I was gonna say, what if something happens? Just hypothetical, something happens like last year, or not the season that just ended, but last year, where 3 teams make the playoffs. You're a wild card team, but you might have 11 wins.
Yeah, I still don't know if that's good enough.
Okay, so you think not only make the playoffs, but you think you have to win a playoff game.
I think at this point, Dave will have 2 full years of tape on Ron, and I think that's enough for him to make a decision.
Okay, so I think in the scenario where you have a good year, you make the playoffs, and if you lose in the wild card round with a good record, not a 7-8-1 or something stupid record. Granted, you wouldn't make a wild card anyway, but I think I could see losing in the wild card not being a fireable offense. I say just getting in the playoffs at least keeps his job.
Well, and I think one more thing we got to keep in mind.
Maybe I'm shooting too low.
Is player development. We only had 2 players from this year's draft class that. If you really want to boil it down, one player that had a big impact, and that was, I think Dante had a bigger impact than DJ Moore did, but Okay, I'll go 3. I'll say 3 players.
Well, I would
with Ian
argue
Thomas, Dante.
I'd argue
and
that Dante fell off
he did.
significantly.
Yeah,
where
he
DJ
definitely
didn't
did.
really have that much of a variance.
But I'm comfortable with him as a starter.
Oh yeah.
And I'm comfortable with Ian Thomas as a starter. But I think you got to develop some of these players, man.
Yeah,
because we don't have a great history of that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Addison's really the only one that people think of on the defensive, on the trenches side, really. I mean, Norwell,
and I still think
guess.
I've got him. When we talked about it a few weeks ago, I still think that he either gets restructured or gets cut.
Addison?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, granted, he had stats, box score stats. I mean, he definitely didn't have the impact that we expected him to have.
I don't know. I mean, you know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he's worth that going forward.
I agree with that.
But I mean, like if you look at the last few drafts, let's just say the last 2 years, obviously, Christian's great. Curtis, we think that the player's there. It's just got to see it on the field. Taylor Moton, good pick. But then Deshaun Hall, 3rd round pick, never played.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I thought he was going to be good. I don't know.
I did too. Your boy Corn Elder, hot garbage. Alex Arma.
Hold on. Corn Elder's not hot garbage. Corn Elder should have never been in the position that he was in.
Yeah, but he's a professional football player.
Corn Elder at the line of scrimmage is very good. So granted, that doesn't mean he's a starting corner, but he's not the guy. He's not the guy running down the sidelines. And he was kind of Eric Washington, I guess. He was a little over his head in that.
He was
Seattle?
drafted to be a cornerback. He should be able to play cornerback.
Yeah, but who did he come in? He came in for Dante Jackson, right?
Yeah, but again, he's drafted to play cornerback. He should be able to play cornerback.
Yeah, but he was also one of those guys that no one really knew if he should play slot or outside, and they kind of worked him to the outside this year. I don't know, maybe that wasn't the right move, but
yeah. So, but I think these guys. I mean, obviously everybody has to nail their drafts, but I think if he's got another draft, look how many 2 years in a row we've had a couple players not even make the team.
Mm-hmm.
In Deshaun Hall and
yep.
Harrison Butker. I mean, call that situation, what it was, and it was just a mess.
Luckily, Bobby's not here.
Yeah. But I think you got to nail this draft. I think you got to come away from this draft with at least 2 starters.
Yeah.
At least. I think, if I have it my way, we go. And defensive linemen, we know take a while to develop. Mm-hmm. So I guess if you go that route, you buy yourself some time. But I think that they've just got to nail it. So
yeah, and if you nail the draft, you can walk around the draft with a sign that says "We
draft
won the
champions."
Draft. Yeah, like Saints fans.
Yeah, they hung a banner for that one.
They sure did.
My gut feeling here on February 13th at 10:31 p.m. Eastern time, I don't know that Ron is around in 2020. I would take the under on it. I'll say that.
Okay. Well, there you have it.
I'll mark the tape.
Anyway, thanks for those questions, by the way. Before I move on, we do put that out throughout the week. We pick 2 questions, pull them on the show. We do stockpile some of them, so if we didn't get to some of your questions this week, if they do have kind of a timeless question that we bump to another show, we'll bring them on next. So we didn't ignore anyone's questions. We do have a nice little inventory here, but we do pull on a couple every night to read out loud to you guys. So thanks for submitting those in. And that's pretty much going to do it for us. We do want to shout out our sponsors here, Ortho Carolina. We are part of the Riot Network. You can find us over on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, over on theriotreport.com, and check out our other friends also on the Riot Network. One Day Contract, It Is What It Is, the Roaring Riot podcast, and now also from the UK, the Great British Drafting Show over with Vincent Richardson. Pretty good stuff over there. Brand new pod for you guys, too. So that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Chris, happy Valentine's Day, I guess.
Wait, you're cutting me off? No sin bin? The people demand it.
I forgot about the sin bin. Let's That was the one thing I had circled on my thing here to go into. Each week we do a Hurricanes update with Chris. It's called Getting in the Sin Bin with Chris. He tells us all about the Carolina Hurricanes because I'll be honest, I can't watch many of their games up here. So I get all their information from Chris. So Chris, we'll give you a 2-minute minor here. How's that for a hockey term?
Ooh, well, if you drew blood, it's a double minor.
There you go.
4 minutes.
Tell us about the Hurricanes. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, it's cool, man. So Kane's hot streak's continuing. We did lose one to Jersey over the weekend, but as we sit here now, we've won 4 out of the last 5, including a big win in Madison Square Garden, where we have not won since 2009.
And you predicted that, by the way.
Yeah, I was pretty close on my prediction last night. I predicted 3-1, but we scored 4 third period goals and won 4-1. But the team's looking good. We've got Edmonton coming into town this weekend, and they may have the best player in the world in Connor McDavid, but boy, that team's just terrible. It's been so mismanaged. It's almost like Cleveland Brown. Like, these guys have had the number 1 pick 4 or 5 times in the last decade and are just terrible.
We can't make fun of the Browns anymore, though.
No, Super Bowl champion Browns. I think I was talking to my buddy Jared, who's a big Browns fan, and it was after they signed Kareem Hunt. I jokingly said, "Have you guys planned the Super Bowl route yet?" And he's like, "No, the meeting's tonight. I'll let you know."
And I just realized I need a graphic for you for this. So right now I just threw up the Riot Network graphic so I could not be staring at the camera.
We need some sound effects.
We
too,
do,
man.
yeah. We need some hockey goals and stuff. So yeah,
I want
that's on me. That's on me. That's on me.
I want like a sweet speed metal riff with
Sure.
like some skates
definitely.
sliding.
Yeah, some like blades of steel. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
100%.
Well, bad radio. We'll cut that part out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the Canes are looking great. Trade deadline is I think 10 or 12 days away. So I still think this team is going to be a big time buyer, and I don't know why, man, but my gut just tells me they're going to make a big move. And we haven't been in the playoffs since 2009, the longest active drought in the NHL. So I got a good feeling, guys. Keep watching and #take warning.
I like it. Anyway, Chris does those each week. Hurricanes updates. Getting in the sin bin with Chris is the official segment name.
Yeah,
And,
we got a hashtag. Shout out to Gary for starting that.
Yeah, what's up?
And send your hockey questions too.
Yeah, that's actually
Don't be
true.
afraid.
Here in the off season, you can send hockey questions as well.
And I see a lot of Roaring Riot stickers at PNC Arena for games. So if you guys are out there, hit me up and
say hello to Chris.
I'll buy you guys a beer.
There you go. Anyway, Chris, thanks for hopping on tonight. We missed Bobby tonight, but he'll be back next week, and we'll talk about how Valentine's Day was, I guess, and we'll talk about some new draft stuff with Jared and see what other crazy things happen in the now normal NFL offseason, now that we've had our week off.
I like it. NFL don't sleep, though. You know that.
Speaking of sleep, that's where I'm going now. We'll talk to you guys next week. Keep